Step right up, dummies, and listen to the stupidest sports show on earth with Rodney Newpol and Tim Van Stratton. Yeah. Well, hello, dummies, and welcome to episode number 37 of the stupidest sports show on earth. My name, as you all remember, is Tim the Great White Shark Van Stratton. With me is Rodney Newpol. Rodney, happy Friday. I'm freezing. I'm cold all the time.
Yeah, crazy part is it's about 25 degrees warmer than it was 3 days ago. Yeah. It's literally like, it was in the negatives, and now we're like closing in on maybe the 20s at some point. But yeah, freezing as well. And NFL Final Four weekend should be good. But we're kind of narrowing our focus here. We're going to be getting out of football and into basketball and baseball soon. It's real and it's here.
I'm kind of excited about it, but also like kind of not, because it's, if you are in sort of the sports industry, right? It's very easy during football season to be like content.
Oh yeah.
Because it's just there. NFL is always providing. The good news is, as we discussed on Tuesday, where it's like, well, why do they allow NFL head coaching hires during the playoffs? The NFL has no problem creating headlines year round. Yeah. So even after the season's done, like, expect free agencies to expect surprise cuts. There's going to be draft talk. I know you love draft talk. So.
Yeah, love spending 6 weeks talking about the draft leading up to it, and then 6 weeks breaking it down after, and then the season starts. But you're right. Like, the NFL has been, I'll just call it like it is. It's an attention whore, and they love to get the attention. And you're right. Like, we could show up to the show for the last 16 weeks and be like, yeah, we'll just kind of figure it out from there. We'll talk football. And now we got to think about, what are some things we should talk about today as we start breaking into basketball. We'll get some NBA talk today. We'll go college basketball coming up soon as well. But I'm excited as well. The changing of seasons is always exciting at first. And then when we get to second weekend of college basketball and it's like a Monday before, it's like, okay, now I need something else.
Yeah, no, I get that. Well, we can talk about how the Titans will not pass on generational talent at number 1 overall and what that means, who they're talking about. See? Already intrigued you. All right, let's start with NFL. Before we get to Commanders, Eagles, and Bills, Chiefs, and our official predictions for what's going to happen on Sunday, coaching updates. The last we discussed, there was only one hire, and it was Ben Johnson, Wonder Boy, going to Chicago. Since then, we've had Aaron Glenn, the other Detroit coordinator, officially taken the Jets job, which very much in line with who the Jets have targeted the last 15 years or so. Yeah. Like, first time I had sent you the fact earlier this week where, like, since Rex Ryan, they've had 7 head coaches. 6 of them have been first-time defensive head coaches. Right? Like, so it's right in line with who they normally get. The only exception was Adam Gase, which was a disaster. So we had Aaron Glenn. We have now Liam Cohen, which, boy, oh boy, this Liam Cohen thing was weird how that played out. And then, while it's not official yet, all signs seem to be point to the Cowboys staying in-house with Brian Schottenheimer. Goes against everything that you predicted about Deion Sanders, who I don't even think is getting an interview, or I don't know what happened there. But so where do you want to start with the latest coaching hires here?
Yeah, so the Liam Cohen thing is obviously interesting. Him turning it down, remaining in Tampa, and then coming now as of late last night says he will take the job and they're going to hire him. I mean, that had a lot to do with the GM situation there, right? We saw Trent Baalke, he was fired in the middle of this process, and weird, after it, this guy wants the job. So It was pretty apparent that he didn't want the job because he didn't want to work with him. Okay, we'll get rid of the GM. We'll hire you as head coach. Now Jacksonville's got to come up with a GM, right? I mean, unless they have somebody in mind already that I missed. So they kind of did it backwards, kind of. I mean, but I don't mind that situation. Get your coach and now figure out a GM that's going to go with him, going to match up well with him. But leave it to Jacksonville to botch that one.
Yeah, and this Diana Rossini tweet from yesterday really, I think, encapsulates it well. Like, this is sort of the desperation that they had. So, she says, so what changed for Liam Cohen? He got on the plane to Jacksonville after Jags ownership called him directly and explained they will let him pick the general manager and would pay him Ben Johnson level money along with multiple years, per sources.
Yikes.
That is Liam Cohen is the clear number one target. That's the guy that we want. He's the offensive guy who is really going to help rejuvenate Trevor Lawrence, who right now, like Trevor Lawrence, based on expectations, has failed.
Right, big time, yeah.
So they needed to, above all else, make sure that their guy can come in and work with him. And Liam Cohen has a short but really solid track record right now with Baker Mayfield. So they're like, well, shoot, if the reason that we can't get Liam Cohen is because Trent Baalke, which like Trent Baalke, like he had his time. He's not a good GM. He's not.
No.
Then it's not worth it. And let's just on a desperate whim, like, let's fire him and just pray that Liam Cohen is like, we'll just do whatever you want. Please just come here. We need you. We need you bad. And he's going to be, I mean, Ben Johnson's what now right up there as among the highest paid coaches in the NFL. Liam Cohen's going to get the same thing, just out of desperation.
Yeah, and as a guy that has no head coaching experience whatsoever either.
Yeah.
I mean, you see Eric Glenn, you see Ben Johnson, you see Liam Cohen, all three with no head coaching experience. I mean, I'm not saying they're going to be Brandon Staley, but we've seen this situation with Brandon Staley where it's like, oh, this is the next guy, comes in as the head coach and is a complete disaster. Who Adam Gase was another one. So a lot of risk there. So how does this work now? Does Liam Cohen get to pick his GM and then like he fires the GM when he wants to? Like, how does that work? Like, I don't quite understand how that works. Because typically the GM hires the coach. So how's this going to work?
That's a really good question. And there's a reason, Rodney, that typically you don't have head coaches choosing the GM or having a huge say, because ultimately the GM is the guy who is the boss of the head coach and so the team in general, who he controls like the personnel, right? It should not be the other way around. Like, the only situations where you don't have that is Bill Belichick, who was also the GM, like the de facto GM,
right,
when he was with New England. So yeah, I don't know how it's going to work, but my guess is it's probably a situation where Liam Cohen will have a huge say in the general manager. As you mentioned, someone who aligns with sort of what he is looking for, what he wants to get out of this team. But if it doesn't work, well, then it's not a situation where it's, oh, you fire one or the other. You get rid of both of them. They're attached to each other. Like, they're for better or worse, they are connected to each other. So, and that's just how you have to approach it.
Yeah. Good luck, Jacksonville.
Yeah. It's a strange story. Like, don't get me wrong. Did they make the right decision firing Trent Baalke? Yes.
Yeah.
Would they have done themselves a lot of service if they did it 3 weeks ago?
Yeah,
absolutely. Because then you don't have to be desperate with Liam Cohen. You could still make him your number one guy, but you don't have to make him all these promises about GM. You don't have to pay him Ben Johnson level money. Like, Liam Cohen, I think, could have become a head coach without getting this record-setting contract, right? Yeah. But just pure out of desperation, they had to do it.
In an absolute PR nightmare, because everybody's now poking fun at them. And if this doesn't work right away, you know, they're obviously going to hear about it. They definitely botched that one, but let's hope Liam Cohen can coach. I mean, got to keep in mind they got rid of Doug Peterson. The guy can coach. I mean, I know it was time. It was not going well for him in the franchise, but maybe there was more on Trent Baalke. But anyways, yeah, that one didn't go well. And then, as Aaron mentions here in the comments, Robert Saleh back to, and I like that move. I mean, we've all seen Robert Saleh can coach a little bit. He's back to San Francisco as the defensive coordinator. That should help out again. San Francisco is going to be one of those teams where it's like, oh, yeah, they're still here. They're going to be good again. There's no doubt about that.
Yeah, I mean, they they had a bunch of injuries that really hampered them, and now they're going into the year with a, a defensive coordinator who was great for them. Brock Purdy desperate to earn a contract and a last place schedule. So we talk all the time about the difference that can make in the NFL with these teams. I mean, hell, look at the Washington Commanders. Like, the schedule helps, right? And new coaches help. So yeah, that'll be really nice for them. All right, moving on to the Jets real quick. I found the official thing. This was from Schefter once they hired Aaron Glenn. So the Jets have now hired 7 head coaches since the end of the 2000 season. And with Aaron Glenn, 6 of them have been first-time head coaches with defensive backgrounds. Herm Edwards, Eric Mangini, Rex Ryan, Todd Bowles, Robert Saleh, Aaron Glenn. The lone exception, Adam Gase.
Not great.
They have a type. They have a type. I like Aaron Glenn. But here's the thing, I feel like we always had the same thing where it's like when Todd Bowles got hired, people I like Todd Bowles. I like what he's about. Rob Saleh got fired. It's like, oh yeah, look what he did with that defense. I like Rob Saleh. It's like we're saying all the same things about Aaron Glenn that we said about all the other guys, and because it's the Jets, you're like, okay, well, are we just gonna fall for it again? Are we falling for it? But to me, it was a better hire than like Arthur Smith or whatever else they were flirting with, or bringing Rex Ryan back. Like, I don't know what was your sort of reaction there for a team that, as of right now, has Aaron Rodgers kind of, even though they're desperately trying to get rid of them. So where are they at as a team?
Yeah, that's interesting that they're going a very similar type coach. I would have, I don't know, like I probably would have liked to have seen the Jets maybe hire somebody that brings in a little more excitement than Aaron Glenn. Like, I don't know as if Aaron Glenn moves the needle for them on the Jets are going to be back, but they couldn't get those guys. I mean, we saw the Jets they interviewed a bunch of guys. This is Aaron Glenn was the best candidate they could find, I guess. I don't know. I wasn't thrilled, wasn't sent over the top on this move. Maybe it's because I saw Detroit really struggle down the stretch defensively. I know he was missing a ton of guys, but I don't know. I wasn't blown away by this hiring, and it's kind of going to be like Brian Schottenheimer in Dallas, not blown away by the hiring at all. But I saw Schottenheimer put up some of the worst years in St. Louis, so I'm a little jaded by this one. But he was literally hired as the guy to tank in St. Louis. So maybe the guy can coach. We've seen him can coach. Both those hirings just kind of have me scratching my head a little bit. I'm not over the top thrilled by either of them.
Yeah, the stock on Aaron Glenn after the game might have gone down a little bit, but also, like, I know you're saying he's not a splashy name, but believe it or not, Aaron Glenn probably was considered one of the better head coach candidates in this cycle. Now, maybe that speaks to the overall quality of candidates, but like it wasn't someone that was like out of left field, a very unpopular decision. Like, I think most Jets fans are excited about Aaron Glenn coming in. He used to play for the Jets. He's a former player with that experience, which I think can be a good thing. It's kind of similar to the Dan Campbell effect, like that guy who played and did it recently. D'Amico Ryan's a similar thing. There's some value there, but I understand why you're a little bit hesitant. I'm just trying to figure out how they approach their Aaron Rodgers dilemma.
Yeah, that's going to be interesting. I mean, they got to try to talk him into just not coming back, right?
Well, I think the team desperately wants him gone.
Yeah.
I don't know if he is going to be gone, but I know the team doesn't want him there, and that's just got to be a weird sort of thing. But like, if they're able to move on from him, right, then it's okay, well, let's see what we can do. Maybe it's Justin Fields, and then we draft a guy on day 2 or 3. Like, I don't think they're going to use their first round pick on a quarterback. But
no, I wouldn't think so either. But I think that's the approach you got to take. You got to sit with Rodgers, and very, very going to be very difficult, because I can see him being, well, you don't want me, I'm coming back. I'm doing it in spite of you. But you got to talk to. If you can, hey, Aaron, like it might be best if you just go away, right? Like, your time's done here. Thanks for your service. There's probably other things you could be doing in life, but Yeah, I think that's going to be an interesting one to here over the next couple weeks, and they're going to have to figure that out as they start putting their draft plan together. So it'd be interesting to know. Aaron's probably in like Wyoming somewhere, right? Like he's probably in some deep forest. You can't even get a hold of him. No service. Oh, but yeah, that'll be an interesting story to play out as well. I don't think he's back as a quarterback at all next year.
All right. And now Dallas, which nothing has been official yet. And there's maybe even some conflicting reports about it. But as of yesterday, it sounded like things were moving rapidly toward the Cowboys hiring Brian Schottenheimer, who was brought on as their offensive coordinator 2 years ago.
Yeah, after Kellen Moore.
Yeah. So I'm friends with a couple Cowboys fans, unfortunately, but it gives me some insight into how they feel about sort of the direction of everything. And I can tell you this, Rodney, confidently, all the excitement that Bears fans have with Ben Johnson, it's the exact opposite that Cowboys fans have with Brian Schottenheimer. And my guess is if this ends up being the case, if this is the direction that they go through, it sounds like the Cowboys, Jerry Jones, were somewhat okay with keeping things sort of the same, right? Dak would be back healthy, make a couple additions in the offseason. But like in general, things were fine the way that they were. However, Mike McCarthy was going to be too much money, like for an extension. We didn't know if we wanted to extend him, but we wanted to sort of keep things as they were. The easiest way to do that is for him to go. And then, hey, it's okay. Worst case, we just promote Schottenheimer. And nothing really changes there.
No, yeah. And that's that actually surprises me a little bit that Jerry was not wanting to get more of a splash here. Jerry seems like maybe a splash hire more, a guy that we'll talk about, because we're not going to talk about Schottenheimer. Well, okay, maybe we will talk about Schottenheimer, but we're going to talk about him in a negative way through the offseason. Mm-hmm. I guess I'm just surprised that Jerry's not going to go get the name, the splash. But maybe nobody wants it, right? Outside of maybe Coach Prime or somebody like that. So Dan brings up a good point here in the comments. Whole reason Cowboys fired McCarthy to bring in Prime. Now they aren't going to do that. I know it's an old take, but Jerry Jones needs to step down as GM. Yeah, I mean, we said that, but he's not going to. Like, this is his. He bought it. It's how he wants to do it. That's not going to happen. But yeah, I'm very overwhelmed by this hiring, and actually really surprised if they do indeed hire Schottenheimer.
Yeah, well, I mean, he's and even if it's not Schottenheimer, I think that the fact that he has gotten the second interview, the fact that one of the only other candidates is Kellen Moore, who was recently the Cowboys offensive coordinator, like guys that are very familiar, nothing that is a huge shift. That tells you the process. Like, it tells you what you need to know, that they don't feel the need to do something totally out of left field, which would be Dion, right? Like, that's play. But like, there's been nothing about Dion getting an interview. It's all just been like, oh, Dion would accept the job. And it honestly, it sounds like all of the stuff about Dion Cowboys has been coming from Dion's camp, being like, yeah, he's interested. Yeah. And the Cowboys are just like, I don't know.
We're not interested. Yeah. No, I probably took the bait too early on that one because, as you know, my prediction was him going there, but that certainly slowed down. And it surprises me because I really thought we would be hearing kind of maybe not the best choice for them, but kind of the sexy choice that Dallas wanted to go get. And Brian Schottenheimer certainly not it.
No, you want to talk about just an uninspiring sort of career. Like, he's over 50. I think he's 51. He's been an assistant in the NFL for 23 years. He's never once been offered a head coaching opportunity. He's been quarterbacks coach for Washington, for the Chargers. By the way, the Chargers, when Drew Brees was there before he actually became Drew Brees. The Jets with like the Mark Sanchez years, the Rams, as you mentioned, a very underwhelming tenure with then St. Louis. Spent some time in college with Georgia, then Colts couple years, Seahawks for a couple years when like Russ was sort of like starting to go down, Jacksonville for a year, and then Dallas the last couple years. Like it just keeps getting jobs. He's a Schottenheimer.
Right.
I think he is one of those assistants that is just the embodiment of like old school NFL thinking, where it's just like he's a football guy. We want him on our staff, even if he's not very good. Because there's nowhere has he worked where like he's made things like great.
Right. Yeah. I mean, is this just Jerry not wanting to have somebody threaten to take over and change what Jerry wants done there? You know, I know nobody's going to take over Jerry. I get it. Like Jerry's the boss. He's going to be in charge, but like he knows that Schottenheimer is going to be the whipping boy. He knows that Kellen Moore, if he comes back, would be the whipping boy. That's what this hiring has me feeling, is that Jerry now is like, hey, listen, this guy's not gonna overstep his boundaries. I'm hiring him more than Deion's coming in there and he's probably going to do some things that are quite a bit different than what Jerry once done. So I think it's more just Jerry with his power saying, no, we're going to do it my way, whether it's winning or not. We're going to do it my way.
Yeah, no, listen, that's a great point. It's something that we've noticed with Mike McCarthy, with Jason Garrett, with Wade Phillips. Like they're not guys that are going to really challenge Jerry and be loud and like Jimmy Johnson was a fantastic coach for them, but it also ended badly because Jimmy Johnson and Jerry clashed a lot to the point where like they fired Jimmy, like while they were still winning Super Bowls. Like, so Deion is the type of coach who wouldn't just let Jerry have everything that he wants, because Deion just he's like, I'm the coach. And a lot of coaches are. So it sort of limits who the Cowboys realistically would get, because a lot of coaches don't want to come into that situation where they're constantly being told what to do.
Yeah. Yeah. Moving on, what are the Raiders update?
So the Raiders still don't have a head coach.
Yeah.
But they do have a GM, John Spytek. I think that's how you say it. He, surprise, was a former Bucs assistant in the front office. So very familiar with Tom Brady, right? So the Tom Brady like effect that there's now with the Raiders is very real. The fact that they just went after the Bucs assistant general manager. It probably also makes you think to some degree that the Raiders might have been interested in Liam Cohen as sort of the backup plan, and which drove the Jaguars to be like, we'll give you anything you want, just please come here. Like you don't have to move very far from Jacksonville, like all of these things to just try to convince him, because that would be a logical sort of second option for the Raiders after the Ben Johnson thing didn't work. But yeah, it's goes in line with like Brady's sort of is a very big say there, and we'll see the head coach that sort of goes along with that now. But
yeah,
I mean, they have a GM.
I'm trying to think like who is the logical choice now? I mean, we're seeing all these guys getting hired. We're seeing candidates that they've poked some interest in. What's your latest prediction on the Raiders then?
Well, after the Ben Johnson thing became official, I think I went to Pete Carroll. Now, I don't know if Pete Carroll is actually getting, like, if he's one of the second candidates, because like right now I think the known candidates is Carroll, Vance Joseph, Todd Monken, Ron Rivera, Steve Spagnuolo. Like realistically, like it's not gonna be Ron Rivera, it's not gonna be Spagnuolo, so it's probably gonna be Todd Monken or Pete Carroll. I think is sort of how I'm interpreting it right now. I think they do want an offensive guy. So
yeah, and all those guys are older.
I really don't know. Like they don't have a huge.
Go ahead.
Yeah, no, they're older guys, which I think after because Josh McDaniels was a younger guy, didn't really work. Antonio Pierce was a younger guy, didn't really work. it wouldn't surprise me if they want to buck the trend a little bit and go with someone that's a little bit older, that's more of a established guy. Certainly, that would be Pete Carroll.
Yeah.
Another option that I'm seeing is the Chargers defensive coordinator Jesse Minter could
Okay.
be a possible option, and he obviously had a great year with the Chargers this year. I don't know if he's a serious candidate there, but that was just a name that people were floating around. But yeah, I would say Todd Monken or Pete Carroll is going to get that Raiders job.
All right. Let's talk about Sunday's games. We got the first one coming up on Sunday. The Commanders at the Eagles. Commanders at Eagles. We've seen this play out twice this year. Eagles won the first matchup. Commanders won the second matchup. Currently, I see Eagles -6, 47.5 is the total. I'll start with my pick, with my prediction here.
Oh, just going right out there. Okay.
Eagles win by a touchdown or more. I think, and you can kind of talk about it because I think you're on my side here as well. But you're on it because you want to jinx them, and the Tim jinx is real. But I feel like Philadelphia is the much better team here. Jaden Daniels, great story, been fun to watch. Philadelphia is going to have an answer. A team that's seen him twice. I think they will have a good answer for him. If I'm going total score prediction, I'll go 28-20 Eagles over the Commanders, and the Eagles move on to the Super Bowl. And I am halfway home to my Super Bowl prediction from the start of the year. Eagles is my pick. What's your thoughts on this game?
I don't make a lot of guarantees, Rodney.
Oh my gosh, not again. Not again.
However, there is a 0.000% chance that the Washington Commanders win this football game. I feel with every fiber of my being, with the strongest of convictions, that the Philadelphia Eagles will wipe the floor with the Washington Commanders. It will be such a bloodbath that the Washington Commanders will be like, it will be so bad that the Washington Commanders might not even have the name Commanders once it's all said and done. They might have to go back to the drawing board with a new name starting next year. It will be that bad. Saquon Barkley will rush for at least 200 yards. And it's going to be a bloodbath. Save your energy. The game's over. Just pencil the Eagles in. Sharpie, it's done.
Yeah, I don't know about that. I certainly don't know about that. Commanders are obviously playing great football right now. Philadelphia obviously has the potential to coach their game away from this. They pull to malpractice in coaching in Nick Sirianni. I get it, but on all seriousness, I just think Saquon Barkley, Jalen Hurts. Now I don't know the health of Jalen Hurts. Haven't heard a lot about it. I assume he's good to go and as healthy as he's going to be in late January. But the Eagles have been one of the best teams all year. There's no reason for me to change that. And really, the reason the Commanders won game 2 was a little fluky. I mean, it came from behind. Hurts went out, kind of went with a backup. Wasn't great defense late. I'm not sure how motivated Philadelphia was to win that game. They were way up in the division. So, I just all chips in on Philadelphia here. Taking Eagles.
Yeah, so the game that was in Philadelphia, the one that the Eagles won, so that was 26-18.
Yeah,
for perspective. So it was still like an 8-point game. It was, which it would cover, but it wasn't a blowout by any means. Jalen Hurts had 220 passing yards. Saquon Barkley had 26 carries, 146 yards, and 2 touchdowns. So did his normal thing. What was interesting though, and maybe this changes a little bit, but this was the game that Washington got nothing from their receivers.
Yeah.
Austin Eckler and Zach Ertz were their leading receivers. You had 1 catch from Terry McLaurin. You had 1 catch from Noah Brown. You had 1 catch from De'Ami Brown. Luke McCaffrey didn't get any targets. So and then obviously that got better a little bit a few weeks later in Washington, but it sort of speaks to the level of skill that the Eagles have in their defensive backfield now with Mitchell, with Cooper DeJean, with all these different guys that can really shut down Washington. I expect the Commanders to probably do some designated running plays with Jaden Daniels to mix up an attack with Brian Robinson and Austin Eckler, just to really lean on that trio, similar to how they did with Detroit. But yeah, the Eagles are just it is a talent difference that is too overwhelming, and it is going to take a very, very limited Jalen Hurts in order for Washington to be close and to pull off the upset here. Which you were asking about Jalen Hurts. He is practicing. It is limited capacity, but there's no reason to think that he doesn't play and they don't use him in his full capacity on Sunday.
Yeah, no, I mean, if you're healthy enough, you have. I mean, this is a game you have to play. It's an NFC title game.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you get a week off basically if you win this one to get ready for the Super Bowl. You know, I think we saw a little bit last week. Like, is the tush push still in play? You know, with them being hurt, with them kind of going in under the piles. You know, you get at the 1 yard line, and I think no matter if he's hurt or not, you got to use him. You got to use him in that play. You got to get Dallas Goedert shoving him right up the butt and say, there we go. But yeah, I like Houston, or I like Philadelphia here. And I would be really surprised if Washington went into Philadelphia. We've been surprised by Washington, but I would be super shocked if they could do it a third straight week, go on the road, win this game, and beat who has been the best team in the NFC, and that's the Eagles. So, yeah, I'll give the Eagles. But I also I'd be, you know, I know you mentioned there's 0 chance, and some of that sarcastic. I understand that, but I would be surprised. Yeah, 0. I would be really surprised if the Eagles absolutely blew them out, though. I respect. I think Jalen Daniels is too good to be blown out here. There's too many ways he can move the ball. I'd be really surprised if it was a complete blowout by 2 touchdowns or more. That would surprise me.
It would be a combination of like kind of what we saw last week, where it's just every Eagles touchdown is a big play, right? Because they love to chew clock, they love to run the ball, but like that ends once Saquon Barkley takes 175 yards. So they have a combination of that mixed with a defense that does a really good job of forcing turnovers, right?
Yeah.
They did it against the Rams very well. Now, granted, the weather conditions allowed them to sort of to do so, but yeah, it's that sort of combination that I think could turn it into a blowout here. Do we know what the weather is supposed to be in Philadelphia?
I'm literally just pulling that up now as you mentioned.
Because I mean, it's cold. It's cold where we are. I would imagine it's going to be cold there. I don't know if that also includes snow. Like snow, I think really showed that it can be the sort of the great equalizer in a lot of ways. And so, the Rams were impacted by it. And like the Rams could have won that game without it.
Yeah. Now both teams obviously have dealt with this, but this is actually going to be pretty good one. 43 for a high. So you're actually going to get some nice temperatures, 10 to 20 miles an hour wind. So nothing major there, which makes sense. We're starting to get a little bit more of the warmer weather here. They're going to get it a little bit after us. 43, really no chance of precipitation, some sun. So it should be a good day in Philadelphia for them, which, I mean, if we had the snow and rain, I would say it benefits the running team, but they're both running teams. I mean, Washington's going to want to run the football. They don't want to put Jaden Daniels out there throwing it 40 times.
Right.
So,
right.
Yeah. So, I don't think weather's going to play a part in that game. But, yeah, that's where I'm going. What about Buffalo, Kansas City? Second game of the day, 5:30 Central Time.
Is this going to be the highest rated non-Super Bowl ever?
Yeah, and probably the more anticipated of the two, right? By far. Like if you're watching one of these games, it's going to be Bills at Kansas City. Now that's 33 degrees, partly cloudy, very light winds, so really no weather issues there either. Yes, it's going to be cold in Kansas City, at 5:30, but like cold's going to be like high 20s. So it could be a lot worse in Buffalo and Kansas City this time of year, certainly. So I'll let you start on this game. Bills, Chiefs. Where's your head at here?
Roddy, you don't make a lot of guarantees.
Oh my God, not again.
No. To be honest with you, I like 99% of Americans are praying for a Buffalo Bills victory. I want the Buffalo Bills in the Super Bowl. I want Josh Allen in the Super Bowl. I want new blood. I want a new champion. I want all these things. But I mentioned this on Tuesday, and this is where I'm at. The Bills are a better team.
Yeah.
But they need to be absolutely perfect to beat the Chiefs in Kansas City. Perfect. Like you cannot give the Chiefs any sort of break whatsoever. That means turnover free football. That means playing a clean game without penalties. You know, you're not killing your drives with holding penalties and like all of these things. You're not no illegal formation. Like you need to have the cleanest, most disciplined football game of your life in order to beat the Chiefs. Right?
Yeah.
Because and which is hard because like as we saw last week with Houston, like the Chiefs have a way of getting calls. Like let's call it like it is. Like the Chiefs and Patrick Mahomes, like they can get calls in their favor that totally shift the tide of the game in an instant. But you have to do everything you can to fight that, to play just the cleanest football game and just rely on your skill. Like Josh Allen's been much better than Patrick Mahomes this year. Like use that. Like the defense can force a lot of turnovers. They can get to the quarterback. These are all good things, important things that they need in order to win. Will it happen? I don't know. And like, I know I'm supposed to come here with a take and be like, this is going to happen, but like, I genuinely don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know. If like gun to my head, I probably say Kansas City does what they always do. And they just squeak out a 3-point win and we're all pissed off. And that's it. It's going to be a 22-19. Like it's just going to be some stupid low scoring game like that. And we're just all going to be pissed off, but I'm praying that I'm wrong and I want Buffalo to win.
Yeah. I'll kind of piggyback off you here and then I'll get to Dan's comment here. If I'll just go out here, if Buffalo turns it over one time, they lose.
Right.
Like I will say that. And I know you mentioned they got to be perfect and they do for the most part got to be perfect. But I will say they do not turn it over. Buffalo has not been a turnover team. I mean, Josh Allen's been very careful with the ball for the most part this year. I mean, he has not been the reckless Josh Allen. Now, James Cook's got to take care of the football. Their receivers got to take care of the football once it's caught. So there are obviously lots of opportunities for turnovers, but I will say, I will go with my prediction that Buffalo does not turn it over and Buffalo wins this game 24-23.
Wow.
Last late drive for Buffalo. And if they're going to do it, they're going to have to do it with like 8 seconds or less, because if you give Patty like 10 seconds, he's going to give yourself a chance to score.
What was it? Was it 13 seconds in the one from a couple of years ago? Yeah.
Yeah. And like any shred of timeout, you better not do it. But I'll go 24-23 Buffalo. I called at the beginning of the year. I got to stay with it. Like I can't come on here and say I'm going to take Kansas City because I still have Philadelphia, Buffalo. So I'll take Buffalo. I'm going to go like 24-23 right now. The spread's at 2 for Kansas City. 48.5 is the total. So I'm right around there on the total. I do think Kansas City will turn it over. Buffalo can turn Patrick Mahomes over once or twice in this game. Mahomes will throw an interception. That's my final score prediction, 24-23. Let's get to, so Dan says game is going to end on a Chiefs field goal after Buffalo gets called for a questionable roughing the passer penalty. He books it. Yeah, I mean,
like that, but that it's funny. That is exactly how the Chiefs season has sort of gone.
Yeah.
Like you need to give the Chiefs their credit with what they can do, like the ability to take advantage of things that work out for them. Like every team can get officiating on its side. But like, if you're still bad at football, like you're not just going to automatically score because of it. Like they had 8 sacks on Houston last weekend. Like they totally shifted the game based on their pure abilities in the fourth quarter and allowed themselves to win that football game against the Texans. So like you have to give them credit in that regard. But yeah, like that's the type of script that just would make all the sense in the world, but it would also just absolutely infuriate all of us.
Oh.
Like can you, like, if you imagine, like, that's what happens where it is a questionable rough in the passer call, and it's like a game that Buffalo has, they're winning by 2, but then a penalty like that happens. The Chiefs are able to then, move more down the field. Mahomes able to gain 25 yards, get out of bounds. There's 2 seconds left. Bucker comes in, kicks a field goal, and then we just hate ourselves.
A 53 yarder or something is something silly like that.
After I should have mentioned, after Tyler Bass missed at least one field goal and an extra point earlier in the game too.
Or Bucker was out there for like a 57 yarder and they called an offsides penalty or something first, moved it up to 52 yards, and he makes it by 4 feet. No, I could see a situation like that. And then we got 2 weeks of all the cheaters. We got the pictures of Patrick Mahomes kissing referees and Andy Reid, doing. Yeah. We've all seen them. We don't know. No. There's
no worse way that AI has been used than to see all of the photos of Patrick Mahomes and referees tongue kissing and Andy Reid and Taylor Swift doing the same. And it's just, why are we spending our time and energy doing this? And why AI, is this on my timeline?
AI taking over the world, baby.
Oh,
that's where we're at.
But no, honestly, you brought up a great point too about like turnovers. Like, it's not crazy to ask the Buffalo Bills to not make mistakes. They have 8 turnovers in the NFL this season.
Yeah.
They have 8.
Yeah.
Which is the fewest in the league, while also forcing a league high 35 takeaways.
Yeah.
So the best turnover rate by far in the league, which is huge for them, which helps.
Yeah. I didn't know those exact numbers. I just knew Josh Allen has been terrific at not turning the ball over because, a couple years ago, that was kind of the talk on Allen is he's pretty good, but he's a little reckless. He's a little reckless. He'll lose the ball, but he's not losing the ball this year. He just is not.
Do you want to know one other officiating nugget here that I just learned? No, this is interesting here, and this is actually going to work out very well in your favor. Okay. Perhaps we found the one officiating crew that isn't going to tongue kiss Patrick Mahomes.
Okay.
So Clete Blakeman is the head referee on Sunday.
Yeah.
He's been the ref for 12 Chiefs games since Patrick Mahomes came into the NFL in 2017. Kansas City in those games is 6-6.
Oh.
For perspective, they're 110-30 in all of their other games. So Blakeman's regular season crew led the NFL with 18 flags per game, but it's worth noting that Blakeman himself threw only 3 flags for roughing the passer, tied for the second fewest in the league.
It's interesting. 6-6. That's not real good.
No, and hardly any roughing the passers as well. So something to chew on.
Yeah.
Something to chew on there.
That's certainly interesting, and goes and helps my Buffalo here. But I'm going to take Buffalo in a close one. I mean, you said gun to head, you're taking Kansas City, and that's probably the right choice.
But it's the dumb choice, and I wish that I had balls and stones to not do it. But listen, honestly, and this goes back to the fact that I'm cursed. Like, I watched the Boston Celtics win a championship. I watched the Dodgers win a championship. Like, it's only fair that I'm left with Eagles Chiefs in the Super Bowl. There's no other way.
Yeah.
There's no other way.
Yeah.
Like, I just got to. Do you want to hear the officiating nugget? By the way, I know we're going backwards here, but the real officiating nugget for the Washington-Philadelphia game.
Yeah, let's hear it.
All right. This again comes from ESPN. So Sean Hockley is the ref. Worked the Commanders' Week 15 victory over the Saints. His crew flagged Washington 10 times, including twice for roughing the passer. He also worked the Eagles' Week 6 victory over the Browns, throwing 5 flags against Philadelphia, including once for roughing the passer. Overall, he tied for the 3rd most flags this season for roughing the passer.
So that Jaden Daniels benefits a little bit. I mean, I don't know, or do we see Hurts benefit more from that? Probably Daniel.
Maybe Daniel. I don't know. I feel like Jalen Hurts doesn't get as many of those
Right?
calls.
I agree
Yeah.
with you. I agree with you. I think that might benefit Daniels a little bit, but that's not changing my thoughts on that one.
No.
I'm going Eagles in game 1. I'm going Bills in game 2, and we come back on Tuesday and we break down a 2 weeks worth of Super Bowl talk. Can't wait. But hey, I got what about 10 minutes here? I want to talk a little NBA with you.
Yeah, you do.
Because the NBA trade deadline will be coming up here before long. I know we got best 37s in sports we got to get to. But I just want to break down real quick from you, because you talked to me before the show about your Lakers absolutely blowing the Boston Celtics out last night. And I ask you,
Yeah, they did.
do the Los Angeles Lakers have any chance to win an NBA title? And then it got me thinking, who are the real NBA contenders? Like, who legitimately can win an NBA title? How many teams, in your mind, you follow the NBA fairly close, how many teams have a legitimate chance of winning the NBA title? Right now, I'm asking, how many teams are there?
Okay, so there are 30 teams in the league, right? The good thing about the NBA is that history has made it very easy to show you exactly the realistic contenders, like the teams that for sure are gonna do it. So, like, you've heard of the 40-20 club, correct?
Yeah.
So the 40-20 club, for those that don't know, is, and this is, I think Phil Jackson's the one who started this, where the NBA champion will always be a team who has 40 wins, who reaches the 40-win mark in the regular season before they get their 20th loss. In other words, like, really good team is usually going to win the title. Like, then there's not a lot of room for parity and upsets, because there's 4 best of 7 rounds in the playoffs. Like, a really good team isn't going to lose 4 times in 7 games, like, unless shit gets crazy. So you're able to sort of figure it out from there. So just by that alone, we don't have a team that has 40 wins yet, but Cleveland, Boston, OKC are so far ahead of everyone else. History tells us it's going to be one of those 3 teams.
So the Knicks would have to go 11-4 to get to 40-20.
Yeah, which is possible. It's possible.
Milwaukee would have to go 15-3. Yeah. So, and I'm looking at the East. I'm just. What about Memphis? What about Memphis?
So Memphis is interesting because I think a lot of Memphis's underlying metrics are really good here. And Rodney, if you could pull up like the offensive and defensive ratings, or you know what, I could pull up the offensive and defensive ratings for these teams, because like there are a couple other factors that you can use to sort of determine like which teams are great. And one of them is the NBA champion, like overwhelmingly is going to be top 10 in offense and defense, and probably top 5 in one of them. And I think last I saw, Memphis was top 10 in both. So I think there's a really strong argument that Memphis is the second best team in the West behind OKC. But like OKC is such a huge advantage over every other team right now. Like they're still not at full health. They've been doing this without Chet Holmgren, by the way, who a lot of people have sort of forgotten about. Like they can be overwhelmingly great against a lot of the league. Now, the West is interesting because you have teams like the Lakers who can make a move and can get back into it. You have the Denver Nuggets, who have the best player in the NBA by leaps and bounds, who I don't think anyone wants to see Jokic in a best of 7 series. You have teams like Dallas, who Dallas right now is looks like a fringe playoff team, but Luka Doncic only played 20 games for them all year. Like he's missed over half the season. Like the Suns are still the Suns are in the final spot right now. But like, what happens if the Suns make a huge splash and suddenly it's Devin Booker, Kevin Durant, and Jimmy Butler, right? Yeah. Like there are ways that this can shift, but I would say OKC, Cleveland, Boston are in a tier and a class above everyone else, and it's a safe bet that one of those teams is going to be your champion when it's all said and done.
Yeah, and you got, like you mentioned, the West. Like Golden State's not even in the playoffs right now. Now they're not a contender anymore, but it's kind of crazy to see that they're downfall has sent them out of the playoffs. I mean, do I think they'll make the playoffs? I don't know, though. You got Dallas, Minnesota, who hasn't been very good, and Dan brings up a good point. Like, is Minnesota going to do a splash trade to try to, salvage a little bit of their season? They're 23-21 from a team that went to the Western Conference Finals last year. Sacramento's red hot right now. How hot can they get? Can they knock a team or two off in the playoffs? But so you got three teams, but you mentioned your Lakers. How do the Lakers at the trade deadline get to being a possible contender? Now, can they win it? Because they'd have to go 16-2 to get to that 40-20. That's probably not going to happen. But can they? Who can they go get at the deadline that maybe can push them over the top?
I don't think that we're going to get a superstar, because like everyone wants to assume the Lakers are hunting for a superstar, right?
Yeah.
And we use the term superstar kind of lightly, but like they're not going to go and make a Jimmy Butler deal. They're not going to blow everything up to get Zach LaVine. I think that they realize that the Russell Westbrook trade does a lot more harm than the one that gets them, D'Angelo Russell and Rui Hachimura and
right.
all of the guys that they were able to use when they got to the Western Conference Final a couple of years ago. So I think that the idea is they probably want to upgrade a couple spots as opposed to just like, hey, let's just sell the farm and go all in on a star. They don't need one. They don't. So like Utah, I think, is the big name to watch because they have some guys that are on the block, namely Colin Sexton and Walker Kessler. I think Walker Kessler addresses a massive need for the Lakers because they clearly need another big. If Anthony Davis goes down, which is always possible every time he steps on a basketball court, like things like the season's over for them. It's that fast. So like having Kessler at the 5, Davis at the 4, and then also like Colin Sexton as the new starting guard, or maybe even like the first guard off the bench to replace someone like Gabe Vincent is a huge upgrade for them. You still keep LeBron, like you still have AD, you still have Austin Reeves. You're basically like, in order to make that trade, you're probably sacrificing like Rui Hachimura and a couple other guys, but like your core is still really intact. And that's a move that can make you a lot more competitive in the Western Conference. But like they don't need to do anything insane to blow up their depth. Like they're not shopping Austin Reeves in order to try to get like Kevin Durant, right? Like it doesn't make sense.
Yeah, where do you think Jimmy Butler ends up going?
Ugh.
And I'm tired of the story. I'll be quite honest with you.
I am too.
Like
I am too.
Getting suspended. He's like, I just trade him or something. But yes, I'm tired of the story. But where do you think he ends up? Because he's going somewhere.
Yeah, has to. I mean, who's even interested in him right now? Well, Phoenix seems to be the name that a lot of people are mentioning. But it's funny that Phoenix is like so like, well, we need to go all in when they're like a game above 500,
right?
Like clinging on to. I forgot who it was where I saw it, by the way. This is getting a little off track, but like someone was suggesting like an Anthony Davis. I think it was Stephen A. Smith actually, like an Anthony Davis to the Warriors trade, as if the Warriors weren't currently the 11 seed and the Lakers weren't the 5 seed. Right. It's like, why would the Lakers just blow up the team and trade Anthony Davis to get like Trace Jackson Davis and picks? Like,
yeah,
the Warriors are 500. Like,
yeah.
Like it, I don't know. It made no sense to me, but I digress. Yeah, is Milwaukee. I think Milwaukee's also interesting with Jimmy Butler as well, because it sounds like Chris Middleton would be the logical guy to move out there. He's already moved to the bench. It seems like he's kind of fallen out of favor a little bit there in some ways. I mean, Milwaukee's, the fact that they've turned their season around the way they have has been incredible. So there's a chance, like if they're able to get a guy like Jimmy Butler, they suddenly ascend to that range where they can really challenge Cleveland in the playoffs or challenge Boston in the playoffs, which
they're
2.5 games away from the 3 seed right now.
Yeah. I mean, Jimmy Butler's got history there in Milwaukee, obviously, but, so it would be a logical choice. And probably, I mean, basically he said there's a lot of teams that he would play for. There's a few that he wouldn't want to go to. Mm-hmm. But I don't think he would be opposed to going to Milwaukee. And with Dame and with Giannis, that's pretty good. Yeah. And really challenges Boston and Cleveland. And a team like Milwaukee would need to beat both of those teams to get to the NBA Finals. But with those three, certainly could be done. But we'll talk more NBA here in the next couple weeks. But I just kind of wanted to get your thoughts there.
Yeah.
Where we were heading as we get into, well, we're close to the All-Star break in the NBA.
Just a couple quick things. Yeah. So like the offensive defensive rating I mentioned, pretty much NBA champions always going to be top 10 in both, likely top 5 in at least one of them. Cleveland, Boston, OKC are the only teams that are top 10 in both. Well, actually, no, there's one more, but they're top 10 in both. And then also a team that's not just top 10 in both, but the only team that's top 5 in both, the Memphis Grizzlies, who are 5th in offense, 5th in defense. And also another thing that I had discovered a few weeks ago, where for the last 15 years, so basically once 3-point shooting really started to explode in the NBA, every NBA champion has finished the season in the top 5 in true shooting percentage. The only exception was the bubble Lakers. Right now, the top 5 in true shooting percentage, Cleveland is number 1, Denver's number 2, the Knicks are number 3, Memphis is number 4, Milwaukee and Phoenix tied for 5th. And then you have Boston, who's 9th, OKC is 10th. So like they're not super far off and things can change there. But like that's like Cleveland, I think, is the only team where if you add all these things together, like they're the best team in the NBA right now. But also like Memphis is by the numbers, they should be right there. And like a Memphis OKC Western Conference final is very, very plausible.
Yeah, it would be fun to watch. Both those teams, obviously, still fairly young. Both teams are young and have some up and coming players. So, should be fun to watch. You want to get to our famous 37s, our most important 37s in all of sports now?
Not a single name comes to mind for 37 for me.
No, I pulled up a few, and in football, Doak Walker was 37. Probably the best 37 according to not ranker.com, but other places here. So did you realize that for 3 seasons, your boy Meta World Peace wore number 37?
Oh yeah. Yep. That's a good one. Yeah.
The 3 of his 6 seasons there with the Lakers.
Actually, do you know why he chose 37?
Nick Van Exel wore 37 for a while. One season.
Do you know why Meta World Peace chose the number 37? I know. I'm just asking if you knew.
I don't know. No.
Because I believe so. This was like 2009 when he came there, right? So it was the year that Michael Jackson died, and I believe that his reasoning was like it was the same. It was the number of weeks that Thriller was number 1, like in the album chart or whatever. So like that's why he chose 37.
Love it. I love it.
Yeah,
I love it. For a short span of time, Derek Fisher wore 37 before he moved back to, he was 2 and then he was 37. Then he went back to 6. Currently, Semi Ojeleye wears number 37. One of the only current 37s. And Giannis's brother Kostas, this was a 37. But we are scraping some of the bottom of the barrel here with 37. Do you have any others that you could think of that wore 37?
Yes, Baltimore Ravens legend Deion Sanders.
Yes.
When he was with Baltimore, he was 37.
That's about
but
it.
But again, like I would never associate Deion Sanders as one of the great 37s of all time. He's 21, so like, yeah, it's one of those. It's one of those numbers where it's like you could probably find a good amount of players that wore it for a very small period. Oh, Patrice Bergeron. Yeah, there's probably some hockey guys that we're missing.
Yeah, that's why Dan's on here, because he could probably throw a whole bunch of 37 hockey guys
screaming at his laptop at 9 a.m. Patrice Bergeron.
And so Dan's got a good point here. It is Bradley ISU weekend. You being a Bradley Brave alum, me being an Illinois State Redbird alum, me being much, much older in my alum than you and Dan. I have no faith in the Redbirds. And actually, your Bradley Braves are really good. They're really good. They've made basketball fun here in Peoria. I have no faith that the Redbirds could win this game, but ISU is playing a little bit better. Maybe they slow down the Bradley shooting game and make this interesting in Peoria. First of two meetings, Bradley ISU. I wish this rivalry was as heated and as sexy as it was years ago, even before your time here in Peoria, Tim. The Bradley ISU rivalry was a much more production, much bigger, much more anticipated than it is now. I'm not saying it's dead. It's just not as heated as it was. I'd like to see the Bradley ISU rivalry come back to life a little bit.
Well, the problem is like
ISU
it
sucks.
seems like both teams. Well, ISU. Here's the thing: like ISU is bad this year. Like I was going to mention, Bradley and ISU right now are in the top 5, both of them.
Yeah.
In 3-point percentage. These are 2 of the 5 best 3-point shooting teams in college basketball that are playing each other on Saturday. So like there's totally a scenario where ISU just goes bombs away, just hits a ton of shots because they can, and like pulls off an upset here. But no, to your point about like the rivalry, it's felt like the teams haven't been really great at the same time. And that's what's affected. Like when I was in school, Bradley was miserable. ISU was playing really well. And then like right as ISU started to sort of go down a little bit is right when Wardle had the Braves going up. And they've just like they haven't lined up there. And now, if they can both be like the top 2 teams in the Valley in a season, then I think that changes, right? Yeah. And then you have that rivalry. But no, I agree with you. Is it also because like they can't call it War on 74 anymore? I remember that being a thing. Like where they're not allowed to say War on 74, which like, come on, man. If you want to make it a rivalry, it needs to be a war. It has to be.
Maybe with the new administration, though, we can change it back to the War on 74. You know, maybe we can get an executive order on changing it back to the War on 74. But I mean, Illinois State has won 2 in a row. They're 12-8 with a 4-5 Valley record. They are flirting with the bottom of the Valley because there's 4 teams at 3-6. And of course, somehow the Bears of Missouri State have yet to win a Valley game. They're 0-9. I'm not sure how that happened.
They're leaving the Valley on the lowest possible note. So
yeah, exactly. Bradley, on the other hand, 17-3, 8-1, and we're not going to get into it today. But we've talked about this scenario where Bradley could literally be like 29-4 and be a bubble team at Selection Sunday if they don't win in St. Louis. So we'll definitely get to that in February.
Imagine losing less than like if they lost less than 5 games for the entire season. That would be probably a top 3 or 4 record in all of college basketball.
Yeah,
they would be a top 5 shooting team in all of college basketball.
Yeah. They'll be flirting with a team like Cincinnati.
If you still don't put them in,
they'll be flirting with a team like Cincinnati, who will be 19-14 on Selection Sunday, and it'll be between those two for the 12th seed. But yeah, so Bradley ISU, that's the weekend. Of course, Sunday we've got the football game, so plenty of going on, and that's pretty much a wrap for the show. What do you think?
I think that we did a great job, man. We had a good mix of talking gut stuff, talking stats. We gave some really great officiating nuggets, man.
Yeah, and that's why
I'm telling you, like that Buffalo Kansas City nugget is really interesting, actually. Like they found the one officiating crew that doesn't just like bend over for Patrick Mahomes, which is nice.
Yeah, Roger got that crew in there, and maybe Roger's done with Patrick and Andy and the guys too. Maybe he doesn't want to see Taylor Swift at the Super Bowl. We don't want all the hoopla around her, so it'll be interesting. I'm gonna stick with Buffalo and Philadelphia. Yeah. You're going Kansas City and Philadelphia.
Do you know what I love too about the NFL? And this kind of ties into like what I was upset at baseball about the other day. It's like baseball, we're like, oh, we need a big market. Like, oh, it's so good for the game when the Dodgers and the Yankees are good and in the World Series. But like the NFL, it doesn't matter. Like if a team from Buffalo, New York makes it to the Super Bowl, like it does not matter at all in terms of the market size or anything. Like if it's Buffalo versus Washington, it's still going to do like crazy numbers. Like it like the best team in the NFL for the last 7 years has been from Kansas City. Like imagine the Royals having that same run in Major League Baseball where the Royals were in 4 World Series in 7 years. People will be like, oh my God, I hate this. Like we need this to end, but like, doesn't matter with the NFL. Like markets mean nothing. And I like that.
I mean, the big markets in the NFL have been really bad. The New York teams have been bad. I mean, LA, I guess the Rams have been pretty good. Chicago have been horrific.
Yeah.
Yeah. Dallas.
Houston,
Dallas hasn't.
Houston, okay, they're just sort of there. Houston is one of the more forgettable NFL teams right now.
Yeah.
And that's one of the top 5 markets in general.
Right.
Like Arizona, the Phoenix is a big market, like Cardinals.
Not good. So, yeah, well, we'll be back Tuesday to get you ready for the Super Bowl. We'll get you ready for the Super Bowl. We'll talk more NBA. We'll talk college basketball. Major League Baseball, spring training right around the corner. So the turning of the guard, the changing of the page for our show. What do you think?
I think you have put a nice little ribbon on this show, buddy. Good job.
Follow us on Spotify, Apple, and iHeart. You can come back later, listen to any of the shows, any of the 37 editions of the Stupidest Sports Show on Earth. And of course, we are on Twitter. Do not call it X because it is Twitter. And do not put the W in there. You're not going to be able to find us. We'll throw some nuggets up there. Maybe have a little weekend contest. I'm thinking about maybe throwing a little contest together on our Twitter account. So make sure you follow that and see if you can win something. Who knows? Maybe I will. Maybe I won't. I don't know. And then, of course, my Substack is going on 23 days in a row, banging out some winners. I am up in the positives. I do have positive units. That's a good thing because we were wrapping up 2024 with negative units.
Yeah. There's a reason. There's a reason why I have to watch on the sidelines as punishment. I was losing too much money for the listeners here.
Your units were suffering. So yeah. But Substack is available. Go ahead and sign up. That comes in your inbox every day. Typically in the afternoon, weekends. You'll find it in the morning, of course, before you do the action. There you go. That's it.
Beautiful. Excellent.
I think I did your closing parts pretty well there, Tim.
Do you want to do the rest? You're on a roll right now.
For Rodney Newple, he is Tim, the Great White Shark Van Stratton. This is the Stupidest Sports Show on Earth. We'll be back Tuesday night, 9 p.m. I think I'm available Tuesday. Actually, I know we have some local listeners. Tuesday, I know you're not huge on the boys' men's basketball here locally. Metamora Morton at Morton.
Oh,
I'll be there. That's going to be a big one, man. That's going to be a big one. The Mid-Illini is up for grabs that night. Metamora got them the first time. They come to the Potter Dome on Tuesday. But after that game, I'll be back here 9 o'clock Central Time. What do you think? Why don't you come to the game with me? Come to the basketball game. Just walk across the street and come to the basketball game.
Never once invited me.
But now it just did. Morton Metamora Tuesday night.
Tuesday? So it is literally across the street for me. It's not much of a travel. I don't know. Yeah. Ask me on Tuesday.
Yeah, we'll see what the temperature looks like. It might be a little bit too cold for you to get out, but we'll be back Tuesday, 9 p.m. Follow us on Twitter. Follow the Substack. He's Tim, the Great White Shark Van Stratton. See ya.
See you guys. Step right up, dummies, and listen to the Stupidest Sports Show on Earth with Rodney Newple and Tim Van Stratton.